Hey everyone, I am PJ, and this is my man.
Michael Powell.
And we are here with a new show from Nat20 Productions, inviting you to pull up a chair, sit down, open up your tabletop role-playing game books, and join us at the table. The show at the table is here. We're going to discuss a whole bunch of things related to tabletop gaming, and today we're going to be discussing the new Pathfinder Lost Omens character guide to celebrate the release of the Lost Omens iconic NPC book, a gigantic compendium of a whole new bunch of characters for this world setting. So if you're running this game setting, this module, this campaign, check out the iconic characters book. And today we're going to be discussing this book's deep diving into the Firebrand archetypes as well as the organizations therein. So pull up a seat and join us at the table. This little baby is really fun. You have like it's pretty good, easy read too. That's what I love about it off the bat. It's only got like 135 pages, very easy to pick up. And what's exciting is that this book has so much for GMs and players to pull for their gaming experience, not only for some homebrew, let's say, that one of your friends is putting together, or if you're playing the Lost Omens world itself or any other campaign that Pathfinder has put out. So first things first, I wanted to kind of just take a moment to talk about some of the really cool stuff in this book. And then maybe within this hour, we're going to discuss about how you can use this, how you can make your own characters with it, and what are all the really cool options you can play with. Of course, my man to my left, or maybe your right, depending on how you're viewing this, Michael Powell. Please give everyone an introduction. Let them know who you are.
Hey, what's up, guys? I am Michael Powell, and on the Edge of Legends live stream, I play the fabulous Rufa, investigator and dance instructor.
Nice. And as you may or may not remember, I am PJ. I am the GM for the show Edge of Legend, the homebrew campaign that we play every Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to have some fun with this show and see how it goes. Maybe we'll keep doing it at the table. This is also a great way for you, the audience, in the chat to talk to us directly. So if we mention something and you want to be like, oh, but what if you do it like this? Oh, we'll definitely look forward to that. So please, if you're in the chat, have any questions, any comments, if you have any character builds you want to try out while we're going over this content, we'll be super excited to talk with you about that. We can have fun together. Yeah, we're gonna say
it's also keep in mind, this is all kind of our own personal opinions on things. Maybe run stuff differently on your table. There is no wrong answer.
Absolutely. This is when that little disclaimer pops up, the views and opinions here are not indicative or reflective of Paizo as a company and blah 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 blah.
Just PJ and Michael.
Yeah, just two people talking about the games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're on the East Coast and you're joining us, it's about maybe 6:40 there. We hope that you can kind of have some fun and de-stress after work or whatever it is you're doing during quarantine, and we can just kind of chat about this as friends. If you're on the West Coast and maybe you're just I don't know, chilling in this very hot day that we're having, you can go inside.
It is very warm.
Why is it so warm?
It's called the summer.
It's called the evil ball of fire in the sky, and I hate it. It's not my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a naturally olive-skinned person, but I sweat like a. I have a lot of.
I got my tiki drink ready.
Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
If and when we do go on break, I might get a giant ball of water.
Okay, waterbender.
Give me water, fry. I'm thirsty. How is that not a meme for everyone online? So
I think it is. I think I've seen it before.
I'm a thirst bender.
But what are we? We're going to be talking about. What we're going to be talking about the organizations presented in the Lost Omens character guide book, and PJ, why don't you tell our audience what are we going to talk about during the first half of the show and the second half of the show?
Sure thing. So as I said earlier, because they're doing the new iconic book for the Lost Omens compendium, that whole world, we are going to be discussing two things in today's episode. We're going to be discussing organizations and the archetypes in this book, the archetypes that relate to these organizations. Now we're going to start with the micro and work to the macro. So everything I just said, flip it.
Yep. Oh,
First things,
we got Sydney in chat saying that PJ, you're an earthbender.
I'm an earthbender. I'm sturdy and I'm strong, and I
Hmm.
like being on the ground. I hate being in the sky.
And for
Airplanes make me nauseous.
and for those who don't know, Sydney is our cloistered cleric from Edge of Legends. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got the healer in the house.
Hmm.
Hopefully she can heal our wounds as we get cut on these very fine edges of paper.
Hmm.
Um, so first thing that I want to talk about that I love about what they've done with archetypes and oh hi it's me that I love about how this book is set up is how they do the archetypes. um because one of the great things about Pathfinder second edition is that everything is this collection of feats that gives you a unique build of a character. So even if you have two fighters, let's say, and they both specialize in wielding a giant sword, they're not going to be the same the same guy. You know, you could have two paladins with great weapons, and they're not going to be the same class with like some minor variation. So they can be two completely different things. And the archetypes from the organizations make that even spicier. So to talk about the archetypes from these organizations, we have to talk a little bit about the organizations themselves. We can go into further detail in Act Two, but for Act One, I
Can
want to
I
talk about.
interject really quick as well?
Oh, sure. What's up? Sure.
One of the things I really like about the archetype myself is it's essentially multi-classing that makes sense. Be-
Yeah, absolutely. No, please talk more about
yeah,
that.
pretty much when you got your class, that's what you kind of invest your character in, and then anything else as your character learned throughout their lifetime, which would be kind of like archetypes, which they learn bits here and there. They're not super specialized in it, but they do pick up skills from it. It's like cherry picking little abilities here and there from the archetypes you want.
Yeah, that's something because like one of the issues if you've played a lot of tabletop role playing games, and there's so many, a lot of times they will offer the option to multi-class, and one of the problems you have with multi-classing is how you tend to lose the strength of your primary class so that you can get this kind of interesting side benefit that may replace what you're losing or may not, depending on the build. And that's kind of a metagaming thing, kind of a munchkin thing. But for a
Mhm.
lot of players, a lot of the game is crunching that character together. Um, and no matter how you slice it, some game systems you try to multi-class, you're going to lose valuable aspects of your class. But what's great about what Pathfinder 2 has done is that um, you don't really lose anything. You just, instead of taking a feat from your main class, you just take a feat, like Michael said, from this other thing and put it in. And heck, most of the time, the feats you're taking still enhance the core mechanic of your class. Like, for example, a lot of the things in the Firebrand uh, classes and characters will take skills that you already have to be proficient with. Let's say you have to be trained or expert in, and then you take that Firebrand because you want that cool flavor of like, I'm this braviso, I'm this very large and flamboyant fighter, and my flamboyancy is my superpower, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Rufa knows.
Rufa knows.
So
Rufa, who was an expert at the bragging.
exactly. So, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit. But if you take the Firebrand Braggart, which is an archetype all about the power of bragging and how it makes you better, then a lot of those skills that you need to take the class, they're going to get enhanced. They're going to get bumped up one extra
Yep.
level just for taking the feat at second level and so
And
forth and
yeah,
so on.
and as PJ said earlier, honestly, no two characters are exactly alike in the party unless you choose to go that route. Like no two fighters can be exactly the same. And by introducing these archetype abilities, you go, okay, my fighter is going to be more proficient in tripping or tripping or pushing or basically crowd control, while another fighter may be better at just dealing massive amounts of damage at once.
Yeah. Or let's just say, like, man, we both use great swords, but I want to be a grappler too.
Mhm.
There are feats and there are builds, and we'll actually get to a few of them here
Oh yeah.
that also give you benefits for grappling. So we'll get in that a little bit. Also, Reap Psyche, I see you. Good to see you, my
Mhm.
man. What was I going to say? Right. Without further ado, let's go. Like I said, in order to discuss the archetypes and the multi-classing and all that kind of stuff, we have to talk a little bit about the archetypes, the organizations themselves. Not too much in depth. We can do more of that in the
Mhm.
second half. But basically, so the first thing in the book that strikes you is called the Firebrand.
Yep.
Now, the Firebrand are basically, how to put this? Imagine a bunch of Captain Jack Sparrows. That's basically it. They are people who prize freedom, prize enterprise, they prize adventure for themselves and everyone else. So, there's this call to action for these pirates, like, oh no, someone's not having a good time. They're being oppressed,
Oppressed.
or
Yeah.
they're, yeah. So these pirates, which is basically what they are, will go, that is not good. I will fight for that person. In fact, this is adorable. This is like a really cool thing I want to show you guys. There's a bit of artwork in the book, and the artwork is amazing in this book.
While PJ says it's for him, it's a bunch of Jack Sparrows. Me personally, a bunch of Robin Hoods.
I mean, not far off. They're both kind of cut from that same cloth. So here's what I love about the book, the artwork, and this is a great example. It's hard to see with my screen here, in the glare, but if you can't tell what's happening, I'll tell you. It is a firebrand swashbuckler escaping from a fancy mansion by rope. And he's absconded with a fair individual. And the
Yep.
fair individual is very excited at the freedom. Here's the funny twist. The person in the window shaking their fist, going, "Oh, you ruined my plan, Firebrand," is the wife, the soon-to-be wife, the bride-to-be, I should say.
The
And
Bridezilla.
the the bridezilla, and the one being taken away to freedom is the man being married against his will.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting because it kind of shows me this idea of, like, there's a man who's like, but Papa, I don't want to marry her. I want to date this firebrand. And he's like, no, you don't marry her because she comes from a rich family and they make lots of babies. And he goes, but I don't want to date her, Papa. And she's like, yes, give me your wealth, give me the family lineage, and I will give you many children. And the firebrand's like, this is no good. I must save that man who wants to date men from this woman who wishes to, you know, force him into a relationship against his will. And he breaks him, doesn't attack anyone, but absconds with
Yeah.
the guy. I think that's kind of funny. I like
Oh,
that.
Sydney's saying it's from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yes, Sydney. We all know that this man has huge tracts of land.
But yeah, they're essentially also, at least in the world of Pathfinder,
Mm-hmm.
they're also considered to be patriots and freedom fighters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like the general idea of freedom,
Mhm.
the general idea of patriotism, they're more about freedom. But that being said, going back to the class, so now I want to
Here's an
read you the
image
first.
of, whoop, here's an image really quick of what a example of a firebrand member
Yes,
looks
that
like.
yep, that is a member of a Firebrands, and the logo you saw just before that is actually the symbol
Mhm.
of the Firebrands. Two crossed blades over a red hood, and that is a member of the Braggarts, I believe. We'll look at that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to kind of illustrate what's cool about the book and what's cool about what Paizo's done, I'm going to read you the first part, and we'll get into more detail. So the first part is just being a Firebrand. This can happen around level 2, and all you need is expert in deception. That's a prerequisite. So once you have expert in deception, this could be a feat that you took. This could be part of the class you are. Say you're a rogue, or the swashbuckler, coming soon to the Advanced Player's Guidebook. And also look for the Advanced Player's Guidebook here on At the Table. We'll talk about it in more depth later. So you can become an expert in deception. Level 2, you take the first feat, backup disguise, as you can see right here in the book. Backup disguise is really cool. It gives you bonuses for creating a disguise, and it makes it so that you're basically not taking a penalty as much if you were to make a disguise on the run. Say, for example, you have you have this man who's very, very good at cosplay, and you have to take this elven ranger and you have to turn her to an orc. Well, with backup disguise, you can do so with a lot less penalties on the action to make it. Because turning an elf into an orc, it's
Yeah,
no good. He's no good.
it's it's a feat. It's literally a feat in itself. But
I
yeah,
love.
one of the things with that kind of reminds me of it's pretty much Bruce Wayne creating the Batman costume.
Ooh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. You could also say it's like oh gosh, if you're in the chat, you know what I'm talking about. Help me out. There was a character in a show who had created a disguise by having this kind of like magical compact kit, makeup compact kit, and they would apply special makeup and like mess with it, and it would turn their face into whatever other character, like person's face they wanted to look like. I don't know what show that is.
Or from if you go to certain stories like the Scarlet Pimpernel,
Yeah,
or the Question from DC Comics.
very much like the question. And also, there's a little bit of Scott Pimpernel here. A
Yeah.
lot of the kind of flamboyant, charismatic, swashbuckling stuff is based on the old Scarlet Pimpernel and Zorro and a bunch of amazing characters from classic literature.
Or from really bad movies, Master of Disguise.
You know, I love Dana Carvey. I really do. That was not a good movie.
Turtle, 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 turtle.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club? Um, so
Yeah,
what?
Reap Psyche. Yep, Rufa is a disguise proficiency.
Mm-hmm. Now this inspires me as a GM to making a disguise kit harder because I'm like, oh yeah, disguise check, da 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 da, and now I'm looking at this going like, oh cool, oh I've been doing it too easy. So everyone, you heard it here. From now on, I'm gonna make disguise checks harder because this man rolls like a god on disguise checks.
Remember, like investigators are skill monkeys, and but thing is, when they go into combat, not so good.
Oh man, I hope they
We all
change
have our
it
strengths
soon.
and weaknesses. Rufa tends to know his strength and weaknesses.
Well, there's something we'll bring about a little bit later, which I think
Mhm.
might be a really nice enhancement for Rufo. But so you have two feats at level two.
Mhm.
When you take this archetype that you can choose from, the first one we discussed was backup disguise. The second one is called So Rumor. Basically, you are lying to people and you're trying to use that to actually control the narrative a little bit, to kind of control the story a bit. You know, work with your GM, you make a roll DC and you roll against it. There's even a critical success to critical failure spectrum of how well this rumor can work in your favor. So now you have
So,
this very amazing opportunity to roll and change things with your words.
like certain news networks. Just saying.
I see where you're going. And I will say this. I will not say you're wrong. No, hold on. I won't say you're right, but I will say you're not wrong.
Hmm.
There we go. That I think that was diplomatic enough. I watched our tukuses.
So
Um,
basically, like if you're, it just reminds me of a feat. You're basically J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man.
very much. So you kind of become J. Jonah Jameson, or if you want to put it this way, you're like you're like Regina George. You're like that mean girl, right? Let's say there's that person you don't like, or there's someone who did something that you don't like, and you want to flush them out.
And they can't
Well,
sit with you.
yeah. Or what you do is you go, so I heard from Susie about Tommy, that Tommy was talking to that person who totally like dented my car because he hates me or whatever. So
Oh my
like I don't know
god.
I don't know who he is, but if you see him, he is not allowed to have a cupcake at lunch. Pass that around. And then it passes. And then at lunch, you see the one person not having the mandatory cupcake, and you're like, Jacques was you.
Oh my god, so scandalous.
Something. I like the idea that Regina George is a like, but Regina George is a little too oppressive in the first half.
I
Anyway,
I I just always want to get pictures of Spider-Man.
I just love that meme. And I don't want to break off on meme tangents, but I just love the meme of like J.
Honestly,
Jonah
I
Jameson.
yeah. Honestly, I think in this show we're gonna be breaking off into a lot of memes.
I'm okay with that. Honestly, this is
At the
kind of
memes. The nickname of
this
the
is
show is also at the memes.
at yeah, memes at the table, fresh and piping hot. Um, Part of the plot mechanics of Persona 2 is that by spreading rumors, you make them true. Great
Mm.
concept. Good point, Reap Psyche. I never got to play Persona 2. I had a port in Japanese and I couldn't read it, but I did play Persona 3, and that game was amazing. But yeah, so the last part at level 7, you can choose a feat called Entourage. This kind of going into, I guess, more the Regina George thing, or
Mhm.
maybe your Persona crew. But effectively at level 7, you become a, if you are already a master in diplomacy and have the feat Hobnobber, which I know what it means, but sounds terrible. You basically create this gaggle of NPCs that work for you to a degree. Um, just think of the show Entourage.
Or I want to say more recent show, The Umbrella Academy,
Hmm.
with the one of the characters basically creating a cult around himself.
Oh, that's right. I haven't seen season 2 yet, but I've seen a ton of spoilers because, man, how y'all love to spoil stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't think that's
not you
I don't
guys,
think
but
this is a spoiler because they said it in all the trailers.
that's true. I mean, at least I don't know about. They didn't go to detail about the cult, but they just mentioned that Klaus, spoilers, has a
Mm.
cult. Um,
But yeah,
what's
pretty
great?
much you have people who will just you need a favor done if it's like a minor thing like, hey, I need you to get my dry cleaning. They'll do it for you.
Hmm. But now let's talk about how this works more than just petty machinations, right? Because it says here in the text, these admirers do not travel with you to places that are obviously dangerous, including most adventure locations, but they'll wait for you at the nearest settlement. Your admirers never use actions in encounters other than retreat, and they abandon you if you intentionally bring them harm or at the GM's discretion. So right away, these are not an army of people to fight next to you. What are they? They are this: when you gather information, you can use your admirers to assist you, granting you a +1 bonus to your diplomacy checks and reducing the time it takes even further. So, for typically 30 minutes, as opposed to 1 hour, that the Hobnobber feat allows. Now, if you use the So Rumor feat, you can have your admirers assist you with that, the same benefits. So, basically, it's like I'm going to be doing a data mine. I'm going to collect intel from all over the city, all over whatever. Now you have a network of people helping you, and they give you a +1 to your role because they're doing the same thing and they're getting little tidbits and scraps. But ultimately, why I like this is that it gives you a tremendous role play boon while also keeping the agency on the player for doing the thing. You know what I
So
mean?
kind of like the orphans from Oliver Twist,
Yeah. Oh, let's put it into context
or
with
A bunch of Alfreds from Batman.
yeah. I don't want to like cross the streams too early here, but this is a lot like Zashmaru. This entire
Mm.
class, actually, come to think of it, is Zashmaru. So you know how he's got the Brotherhood of Dogs, right?
Yep.
And he's got the network, the homeless
Mm-hmm.
people that he gets information from. His entourage would be every single homeless person in the city that he's talking to. And I would imagine the backup disguise, he doesn't really use that. But entourage is definitely the case. It's his homeless network.
Yeah. So like I said, essentially the orphans from Oliver Twist, or like a bunch of Alfreds who won't help you in combat, but they will do other stuff for you.
Yeah, now it's true that sometimes Alfred did throw up dukes, but I think 9 times out of 10, Alfred was like the emotional support and the wisdom support for Batman. So he'd
Mm.
come at you with like, "Well, I won't punch Superman in the nuts. What I will say is maybe punching him in the nuts is not the best way, unless you have, say, kryptonite brass knuckles, Master
True.
Bruce."
True.
Yeah. Um, and Reap Psyche, you're definitely right. I played 3.5. It is a lot like the leadership feat in 3.5. Um, However, and correct me if I'm wrong, Reaped, but I believe that 3.5 had kind of the leadership feat had kind of this weird, almost like a companion or a pet trait, where the people that joined you were also very, very low level fighters to a degree.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I used that feat.
But yeah, I like the ability mainly for the fact that it allows for a lot of terrific role play opportunities, especially for DMs who need NPCs to kind of populate the world and have ties with their players.
Yes, I will. I will caution anyone, all of us listening right now. Um, be wary of the entourage feat because it's a blessing and a curse. If you have, say, a party of 6 players and they all have like an animal companion or a familiar or whatever, then the issue you're going to run into is that the entourage can be like 3 or 4 NPCs. And now, as a GM, you have to balance your NPCs for the story and for the combat, your players' companions, and now these 4 schmucks.
Yeah,
So it will definitely turn into a bad case of too much of a good thing.
it's one of those feats that's really up to the GM's discretion.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to do your GM a huge favor as a player, come up with those people. As a player, take control of your entourage and make up who they are. Give them names, personalities, and then you get to have the fun of not only role playing one character, but role playing these 3 or 4 lesser characters who can just be a very static personality. Like if you're this
Like,
deep and
yeah,
interesting person, here comes this guy who picks his nose all the time. And yeah, it's dumb and gross, but it's your entourage.
give some personalities to Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Mm-hmm. Rip Psyche, thank you so much for reminding me. He says leadership, or they say, I don't want to assume, leadership gave you a singular companion who is essentially a character a few levels lower than you, and then additionally a network of many gradually lower and lower level people. It capped out ridiculously high in the higher tiers where you could have hundreds of people. Yeah, I do remember how much that could get amped up. I remember someone had leadership in Pathfinder 1.0, and now, granted, this was their character's shtick. I think this was during a Kingsmaker game or something, and they effectively had their own standing army. Um, that's really cool for Kingsmaker, but that's a nightmare for GMs who have to now remember that this person has an army of people at their disposal. Plus, let's see, if you're level 20, I'm guessing that the companion's like a level 10 to a level 15 character. Planning battles for that alone must be a headache.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really fast. By the way, is there anything else you want to say, Michael?
No, I think we pretty much discussed all we need to discuss about the entourage ability. So, yeah.
Cool, cool. So what, and this is actually a really great example of why this book is so interesting, what I'm going to say next. So what's really cool about the organization archetypes, that's kind of what I'm dubbing them, is that there is one archetype you get for joining the organization. For being a firebrand, you get these firebrand archetypes, and they're
Oh,
kind of
really
cool.
quick though. I do want to say something really quick about the Firebrand brand stuff. I
Hmm.
also really like the fact that they also have some items attached to kind of like specialized items that these organizations are known to use. One of my favorite is an item called Insistent Door Knocker.
Yeah, I love the insistent door knocker. The flavor text is really funny. I like it.
You're you're basically you're basically Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. Penny, penny, knock knock penny, knock knock penny, knock knock penny, knock knock penny.
It's that and so much more. I'm trying to think. Was there ever? Oh, there had to have been a the Muppets. There was some sort of Muppets thing where the door knocker was a puppet itself. So as you're knocking, the door knocker would then be like, "Oh, be careful what you're doing."
I think you're actually thinking more of Alice in Wonderland, the anime series. What do you call it? The talking doorknob.
Maybe. But either way, it's kind of the same thing. So imagine you're a rogue for the Firebrands. You have this magical item. You place the magical item on a door. right?
Mhm.
And I think you have to knock 3 times, or just its placement on the door activates the ability. But here's the cool thing: the door knocker learns all the details about the door for you, and then and now you still have to engage with a thievery check to pick the lock. But
Mhm.
as you're picking the lock, the door knocker is telling you all the information about the door. So it's giving you bonus information, i.e., it's giving you a bonus to thievery checks to pick the lock. So imagine you get to make this magical item. It's like I don't know, say it's like a frog's mouth with the door knocker in its lips. You put the frog on the door, and as you put your ear to the door to turn the dial and try to like pick a safe, or with your lock picks, you just hear this voice going, warmer, warmer, cold, 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 warmer, warmer. And as you're doing that, you're getting +1 up to +3 on your check to
Yeah.
break that lock. It's really, really fun.
And also for creative DMs, even though this ability is not really listed in the item, I would probably go, that door might be able to tell you who last went through the door.
It really does depend.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of the fun things about the game. Well, that's what it was. Thank you, Reap Psyche.
Uh,
In the Muppet Christmas Carol, the haunted door knocker takes the face of one of the hecklers, Waldorf or Statler.
mhm.
That is right. It was in the movie, though, right? So it was like an actual puppet.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Reaped? While they're responding.
Yeah, that's a movie. It's a movie.
Yeah. It's the live action one, yeah. So it had to have
Yeah.
been a puppet. Awesome. I'm glad my brain is not lying
Mhm.
to me. But yeah, so what's interesting is that mechanically this magical item only gives you a bonus to basically unlock a door. It also does penetrate the material of the door, so it will let you know what's behind the door to a small degree, depending on how thick the door is and what materials it's made out of.
How thick was 2 C's?
Yo, that door is juicy though.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Hey, you heard it here, folks. PJ like him a door that's thick.
Mm.
But there's other items too. And what's cool is that these items are something that only the Firebrands can gain access to. But now going back to the archetypes, this is what I find really fascinating about the idea of. Sorry, I just saw Reap's response.
Yep.
Rich mahogany.
I'm a man who loves mahogany.
I like my redwoods, my oaks, myself.
Mm-hmm. They also call me Ron Burgundy.
Get out of here, that weeping willow stuff. That's too sad and tragic for me. I like some wood with some personality. That's what she said. Oh God, sorry. I just thought I like some wood with some personality, and then that's what she said. Just flashed across my brain.
But yeah, well, back to what you were saying earlier about the Firebrand archetypes.
Yes. So here's what I think is really cool about the organizational archetypes. Once you get your introductory archetype, right, you then can gain access to the more powerful, more specific members of that organization vis-a-vis an archetype. So you're now a firebrand, which they even say in the lore, you start off as a 1 mark firebrand, and as you do more great deeds, you can get your 2nd mark, so forth and so on. Deal with that as you will as a GM. You can hand wave it, whatever. But then after you become a firebrand, because it's only like a few levels of stuff, then you can become a firebrand braggart. And what's fun about this class is that now you're taking your firebrand archetype and you're mutating it to a whole new archetype with newer powers. So right at the gate.
So essentially you become a full member of the Stonecutters.
Yeah. Ooh. Show of hands. Whoever played on the old Digimon handhelds? Yeah. Hold on. I gotta readjust my. Yeah. So you totally did the old Digimon.
Nope.
Heartbroken.
I was more of a Pokemon guy.
I mean, I don't blame you. Pokemon are legit, but Digimon is solid. I stand Digimon.
I like the bug Digimon though.
Which one? The
first one, the beetle guy.
Oh, the beetle guy with Tentamon?
Yeah, I
And
think
once you,
that's what it was called.
yeah, I liked he was kind of like a the nerd.
Yeah.
Um, so with Digimon, what they had was they would have like, let me use my hands to show. So you'd have like your normal evolution here. Kabuterimon. I think Kabuterimon was, yeah, I think it was where the evolutions reap. I think
Hmm.
you're right. So let's say you're here as a firebrand. Well, let's say you're, well, really over here as a rogue or a swashbuckler. You take firebrand and now you're here. Now, once you get to this level, it branches out into different firebrand archetypes. So
So
the
like a
first,
skill tree, like a skill tree.
yes, exactly. And this is where you get further levels of really interesting customization. I'm a swashbuckler firebrand braggart, right? So your swashbuckler firebrand bloop, bloop, over here, up
Hmm.
here, braggart. Now, what does that mean? So you work differently with the lore. You work differently than other firebrands. Not only what your motivations are, but how you fight and how the firebrand recognizes you. So the first thing at the gate at feat 4, you have to make sure your prerequisites are your charisma has to be a 14, and you have to make a second mark of the firebrand. Now, the second mark of the firebrand is frustrating because a lot of the stuff here is going to be based upon your game. So if your GM wants you to work very hard to get your second mark as a firebrand, then it may take longer than it kind of should to activate this class. Or they may not care and they may just hand wave and give you a fun little
I
downtime
kind of
action
want to
that
explain the marks. If you're familiar with Star Trek, they're essentially the pips on on your neck on your uniform from Next Generation.
yeah, you're not wrong. I think they embodied it with like a tattoo or something,
Hmm.
but it can be different depending on the firebrand. But yeah, I think there's generally speaking about 4 marks. There's probably more lore to it, but
Yeah,
you start off as a
it's
first
like
brand.
a private, like a military private, lieutenant, captain, major, so forth.
Exactly, exactly, and it all requires another firebrand to vet you for
Hmm.
each time because they're more about freedom. They don't want a chain of command, but they do know that there needs to be certain levels of seniority to be recognized. Um, so to become a firebrand braggart, you have to be a second mark. And this can be challenging again because maybe your GM will take forever to give it to you, or maybe they will hand wave it, and it won't be a big deal. But regardless, your charisma has to be a 14.
I kind of want to say it's kind of like, you know that line in a lot of fantasy stories. I'm so and so. Perhaps you heard of me.
Very much so. I think that's kind of the best way to encapsulate really this entire class, at least this archetype.
The Dread Pirate
Uh,
Roberts.
yeah. Okay. So, question. Let's read all of the Firebrand braggart,
Hmm.
and based off this, figure out who is the braggart, the Man in Black or Inigo Montoya.
Hmm.
All right. So let's read over this, and we'll see, and we'll have a nice little fun debate because I'm really curious where this lands. Um, So the firebrand training. So again, you have to already have one level of firebrand archetype. So you get to customize and build, but then build off those builds. Has so this training has taught you that achieving something is more satisfying if you boast about it first. You declare a boast about a particular skill action, such as balance, demoralize, or recall knowledge. So you're saying, "Hey, I am very good. I'm a very good acrobat, or my words cut everyone down, or I know so much."
Or I want to say, like our most recent previous episode of Edge of Legend, where Rufa told the Bard group, "Okay, I want you to pick up on the start up slow, then pick up at the front, and try to keep up with me."
Exactly. This is why I mean earlier I mentioned that there's one here that's perfect for Rufa. I honestly believe if you wanted to take levels of Firebrand Braggart, I would find a way because it is perfect for you, my man.
Hmm.
Because that can be one of them. You could boast about your dancing performance. Anyway, so let's say you're Rufa and you're boasting about how great of a dancer you are, or a dancing teacher, either way. So the first time you attempt this action within the next minute of the brag, I make a DC, and then you roll Now this is kind of nasty. You as the player have to roll twice and always take the lower number.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's kind of rough, but there's a reason why they do this in play, and it's because one of the things you'll note about the bragging action, and you see that right there? You see this little symbol, this one diamond?
Mm.
That one diamond means bragging is one action. So for one action, you are now setting up, a complex network of abilities. So you do this to basically activate the ability with a penalty, being that you roll twice and keep always the lowest of the two. But for that, if you succeed, you get a +1 check on that action for 10 minutes. So think about that. 10 minutes. That is, considering each round of combat is 6 seconds and 1 minute is 10 rounds. That is like what, 60 rounds of combat? You get a
Yikes.
+1?
That's good. It's basically high risk, high reward, and I think Reaped puts it best. Called shots, pointing at the stand like a baseball player, going, "That's where the ball is gonna go." Yep.
Yep. Absolutely, Reap. You make a good point. You're basically you're calling your shots, but you're not doing it as like a professional. You're doing it as like a kind of like that's like your swag. I had said the word swag in a sentence. Oh, that's
Or as Rufus would put it, thought about style and finesse.
exactly. And so this becomes a major chunk of your character, and it builds and grows as it progresses. And what's cool about this 10-minute +1 bonus is that it is a circumstance bonus, which means in the Pathfinder rule setting, if you get bonuses from other sources, say spells, class abilities, magical items, etc., as long as they are not the same type of bonus, they can all stack.
Yeah,
So if you get
that's
a
huge.
plus
That's
one,
huge.
it is absolutely because like say you guys have a bard in your party. Rufa does this. He gets a +1 circumstance bonus to performance checks, right? Say there's a bard. They're playing the music for him to dance,
Mm-hmm.
and the music they're playing for him to dance secretly is a song that enhances his dancing skill. Let's say it's a +2, right? So now, by that bard's song and Rufa's ability to boast about how great he is as a dancer, he has a +3 to performance checks. And this man already rolls like a titan, so he's probably going to have, I mean, if he crits, that's like a 37 or more.
Yeah, it's think about it. It's I think essentially you already have a +6, then a +3 on top of that. You get a +9. That's a huge bonus.
Mm-hmm. It's nasty. So what's cool is as this archetype progresses, and again, you're going from say a swashbuckler for example this build into a firebrand, and now into a firebrand braggart. So you're evolving like a Digimon.
Yeah.
You get what's called a booster's challenge, and this is why I thought of Rufa right away. So it's one action, just one action, and I believe it's tied to the brag, but in combat.
Hmm.
So what you do is you can attempt a deception, diplomacy, or intimidation check against the creature's will DC. At level, let's just be feet 6. At level 6, if they are, say, trained in will, then that is probably about a DC 18, give or take a few, depending on the character you're fighting. If Rufa can beat a DC 18, which, spoilers, I'm pretty sure he will, then that means he gets a +2 bonus damage for the round that he started and the next round.
Oh wow.
And the coolest thing is that the damage you do depends on the proficiency of the skill you used. So if your deception or diplomacy in this case is at, I don't know, a legendary status, that goes from a 2 to a +6. And if he crits, this becomes a 3-round buff. So, I'm sorry, 3-round is something else. No, it's still a 3-round buff. Yeah. Good God. So for 3 rounds, you're getting a +6 damage to every hit that lands.
So I want to say essentially that's Rufa attacking somebody, and then when either nobody's looking or he does it on purpose, kicking them while they're down.
Not even a free shot. It's just your hits hit more because they're demoralized.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like
Oh,
psychic damage.
I love one of my favorite abilities in actually any tabletop game is the ability to demoralize your opponent.
Yeah.
I love that debuff.
And it would not be hard. You already have a really easy way of getting it. This is what maybe things are
Yeah.
great for you. You know how you said that your investigator is not good for combat?
Mm-hmm.
This is a way to become disgusting at combat. You would be for melee damage of a barbarian, but as a charismatic finesse fighter.
So basically, utilizing your charisma to deal extra damage.
Yes, yeah.
Ooh.
And it would still require a DC save. There's the payoff. For 3 rounds for free with a stackable buff, you can get a bonus 2 to 6 damage. Now, here's the balance, and this is brilliant. All right, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail against their DC, and everyone else that watched you do this now get a +4 circumstance bonus to their saves against your smack talk. So, let's say you are fighting Xanakin. Champion Xanakin, he's got his giant black pitch spear, he's got his boys, and they're coming after you, right? And you say, I'm going to demoralize him with my brag. Okay, you roll bad, critical fail. You say, you fight like a dairy farmer. Xanakin's not impressed. And if you know Monkey Island, you know that reference, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So your attempt fails. You don't get the bonus, and you've burned an action. You still have 2 more, but whatever. Now, Xanakin laughs that off and goes, you're not very good at talking smack. And him and all of his boys now have a +4 to that DC for you to intimidate them again for the next minute. And a minute can be almost an entire fight, depending on how fights go. So there's a really good balance there because it does get stupid powerful.
Yeah. Like I said before, a lot of these bragger abilities is basically high risk, high reward. You're essentially playing again. You're gambling.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. You are gambling, and what I love is that they get the damage out of the way right away. So you get the high damaging attack, and then everything else is crowd control. So you get the daring act, which basically you do something crazy, and what this does is this allows the target to be flat-footed. So if you were a rogue before you took this feat, you now have a system to constantly get sneak attack even by yourself. It does take 2 actions to do, though. So you're going to have to kind of plan ahead if you're going to boast, do this action, and on your next
strategy.
Turn, yeah, this requires a lot of forethought. My next feat, the next feat, which is my favorite one, is called the Bravo's Determination. This is, if this is a spoiler to you, then haha, but one of my favorite Marvel characters is Captain America. This is your equivalent of, I can do this all day. Because I don't want to get too much in MCU stuff, but whenever Cap says I can do this all day, the joke is, no, he can't. He's on his last leg, and it's all a bluff. It's a sweet little thing about his personality. So the Bravo's Determination is a reaction. If someone was to hit you with an attack that would drop you to 0 hit points, and you weren't at 1 HP, you roll a check. Basically, you're rolling a... what's the word I'm looking for? You can make it a fortitude, or you can make it a diplomacy check, whatever it is, you are lying to them against the attack DC. So if they roll really high, or if they have a really high bonus, you're going to have a hard time with this. But if you do, you're now not dead, and you're at 1 HP. So this ability is like, let's say Leontari smashes you with a tree, Michael.
Uh-huh. As he's done before.
As he's done once. What was it? He smacked you with a tree, and he straight up punched you in the gut. So yeah, both bad times.
I'm surprised I survived that.
I only rolled once. If I rolled twice, you probably would be flat out dead. Yeah. But on a success or a critical success, what would normally kill you outright now leaves you with 1 HP as you're kind of doing this whole I'm good. I don't know what you're talking about. That didn't hurt. Let's go again. I'm
So
good.
basically, you get a second wind. You get your second wind, or at least fake it until you make it.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like fake it till you make it. It's very much the I see it as Rufa playing possum. Not like possum, oh I'm dead, but more like it's my bluff. If you think I'm fine, then you're gonna back down a bit and I'm gonna walk away the bigger man. So
It's essentially bluffing with a too high in poker.
yeah, exactly. And then you make everyone leave the table. Meanwhile, you're hurting because your cards suck. So there's a few other fun things, but I'll speed through them because there's so many organizations. We spent so much great time on the Firebrand. You get Great Boaster. The Great Boaster also between that and the Bravo's Determination. At level 8, you can only choose one. I prefer Determination, but the Boaster isn't too bad. Effectively speaking, this enhances the effects of all your boasts. Not the damage one, but the skill bonuses. And it takes away some of the penalties as well. At level 10, or at feat 10, you get what's called Daring Flourish. And I think Mike will like this because basically you get to make an attack and rip the weapon out of their hand.
Ooh.
So imagine with a chain, like instead of doing a grapple and trying to math it out, you can just roll to hit, and if you hit, you disarm the target.
Nice. Like honestly, I the way I kind of created Rufa was to give him alternative ways of combat. He's not a direct damage guy. I'm going to debuff. I'm going to crowd control.
Mm-hmm.
So flourishes right up his alley.
Now, here's the question, because at level 10, you also get something called Demanding Challenge.
Mm.
So what this does is you basically do another boaster's challenge. You do another skill check against all the enemies around you, and if you succeed or they fail, it is a -1 penalty to hit, or a -2 if you crit succeed. So what would you rather have? The I want a little bit of bonuses, a little bit of negatives, have these kind of perks, or just a nice big debuff for that one guy that I'm talking smack to.
I kind of want to say that's a great feat for Chonobis.
Yeah, she does talk smack very well.
Mm-hmm.
She does. Also, Reaped, yeah, you guys have an amazing healer in the team. She's so wise and she's so patient, and like she's always got the right heal for the job. Like she's
Essentially,
good.
she's willing to put up with RBS.
Yeah, Sydney was even saying, Sydney, who is the healer we're talking about, oh shucks, Rebuke Death is one hell of a spell, which is why it requires a focus point. Now, this is actually kind of fun. I don't know if you know this, but focus points are limited. But if you take 10 minutes to refocus outside of combat, you get that point back.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even have to take a long or short rest, whatever you want to call it. You can just take 10 minutes to be like,
I need a moment.
good. Or just 10 minutes where you're not like engaging in some intense role play or some intense utility. Yeah.
Like eat a snack.
Have a snack pack.
Have a
Have
snack.
your Now there's one last
Rehydrate.
ability, hydrate or dehydrate. Now there's one last little bit for the Firebrand Braggart. And then I want to talk about if this is the Man in Black or Inigo Montoya. The Daredevil's Gambit, feat level 12, prerequisite Daring Act. So, you kind of have to build one thing off the other. If you critically succeed at your Daring Act, you can enter the target space and remain there until the beginning of your next turn or until the target moves, which means you can share a space with a bad guy, which normally you cannot do. If you try to enter someone else's square if they're a bad guy, it's no go because they're an enemy, they're going to attack you. But this lets you share a space with them, basically taking you off the board. Now, here's the cool thing. When you do it, you're getting cover from them. So even if his friends try to shoot you, you get a +2 bonus to your AC. And your target is flat-footed because you're right there in their square. So again, if you're a rogue, this gives you another opportunity to flat-foot your opponent. Um,
I kind of
if
want to say it's
any,
kind of like when you grab your opponent and kind of pull them in front of you while your other enemies are shooting at you.
Mhm.
You're using basically human shield.
It's pretty much a meat shield. I like to think of it. I don't know how familiar everyone is here with kung fu, but I like to think of it as bakwa. You know
Mm,
how in bakwa you put your hand on the opponent and you kind of walk in circles, and this allows you to share a space with them, but
mm.
constantly stay at their back, no matter how they try to
Yeah.
turn to find you. Uh, yeah, raped. It's a free sneak attack. However, it's a free sneak attack that requires a 2 action burn to set up. So in theory, you can get cover, make your opponent flat-footed, and sneak attack them all in one turn.
It's also kind of like, say, if you're fighting a large a large enemy, you jump on them like a spider monkey and
Mm-hmm.
just they kind of climb on their back.
Now, now here's the last thing, Rufa slash Michael, that makes this ability disgusting. So you're sharing a space with your enemy. They're giving you +2 AC for cover. They're flat-footed, so you can sneak attack them. Do you want to know what could possibly make this more broken?
What?
Whenever someone tries to attack you, sharing a space with this person, that enemy, being me, I have to attempt a DC 15 flat check, meaning I have to roll a D20. And on a roll of 15 to 20, the attack hits you. But on a roll of 1 to 14, so that's I'm going to bastard the math and say 75%. On a 75% chance
Yeah.
to hit to miss you, all the damage and attack is confirmed on the enemy that you were hiding in.
Ooh, that. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, if you're playing a monk or a rogue, and you're a firebrand braggart, this is what you want to take.
Yeah, you just get the boast for bonus damage. You get, of course, the initial thing. If you want to get the determination and make yourself a little hardier, a little meatier in combat, and you definitely get Daredevil's Gambit. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, it's a level 12 feat, meaning after level 12 or higher to even qualify. So things are going to be a little heavier then. But considering the CR 12 characters and the damage they can dish out, that's going to hurt like hell on the
Oh
enemy.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So now back to my earlier question. So we've gone over all these amazing things the Firebrand Braggart alone can do. So let's say you are a swashbuckler firebrand of the Firebrand Braggart class of fighter. Are you the Man in Black, or are you Inigo Montoya?
I would say you're totally the man in black. High risk,
Huh.
high reward. Montoya, he's more of a calculating technician. Not to say
Mm,
that the man in black isn't a technician himself, because he totally is, but I feel he's willing to gamble more. High risk,
interesting.
high reward.
I kind of see where you're coming from. But the Man in Black is willing to gamble, but then again, the thing you have to remember about the Man in Black, and everyone in the chat, join us for this pedantic dialogue. This pedantic not dialogue. Trying to think
Conversation,
debate.
debate,
That's what I'm
yeah.
looking for. So the Man in Black, he's a gambler, but he's an intelligent gambler. He never goes into a gamble he has a good chance of losing. So, for example, the iocane powder, the best example of this man's ability to gamble. The Italian, whose name for some reason is escaping me, I should know this man's name. Vicini. Vicini spikes both drinks. No, I'm sorry, the Man in Black spikes both drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And this we find out after when Vicini dies from the poison. And the only reason why he spiked both drinks is because the Man in Black knew that he would be immune. There was no gamble for him. And Inigo Montoya, on the other hand, is constantly fighting opponents he doesn't know and hoping that his skill and bravado will see him through. And he does talk smack very, very well
Oh
when he
yeah.
fights. Oh, let's give hit that character. So but
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so Reap Psyche says, uh love Princess Bride. I do too, Sydney. I think we need to have I think everyone needs to have like a watch Princess Bride day.
Watch party.
Reap Psyche makes a good point. Man in Black would absolutely shove another man in front of an arrow. He would, but only a man he didn't know. I think. I feel like he'd be like, "Hello, stranger, come here." Pull him in front of him, arrow, throw the body away. But he'd apologize. "Dreadfully sorry, you're much thicker than I am," and then he'd run off.
I still stand by what I think. Man in Black is more of of the Firebrand braggart.
Nice. Well, so I think what's interesting here is we had this opportunity to pull the audience. I think while I see some merit to the Man in Black, absolutely, because he would not be opposed to nasty but effective tactics. I think the spirit of the braggart and the boast is very much a part of Inigo Montoya's tactic. Because he doesn't just fight you with his sword; he fights you with his words.
But we could also say, how about this? They're both Firebrand braggarts who have taken different feats.
You, sir, have a compromise that I will accept. Yes, I
Mm.
think this is fair. They're both firebrand braggarts, but much like the beauty of the system, they have completely unique and different builds.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, see, Sydney's loving this. See, these analogies are the best. I agree. I
Yeah.
love this. I love talking about
Yeah.
these. Now, there's more content here we can get into. However, we're reaching the halfway point, and we're going to shift gears a bit. But maybe what we can do is table this and discuss the in-depth military command of the Hell Knights
Ooh.
another time. And I will say very briefly what I love about the Hell Knights is this part of the book references um, another book, which is the Lost Omens uh, World Guide. So if you have the Lost Omens World Guide as well, on page 109, you can find the Hell Knight Initiate, or as they call their initiates, the Armiger.
Mm.
So again, this works like the Firebrand Braggart, where it's an organizational archetype. You can say you are a champion, lawful good champion, so a paladin. Say you're a paladin, and you're like, okay, I want to join the Hell Knights. I'm going to go do that. The Hell Knights, despite their horrendous name and crazy looking visages,
So edgy. So edgy.
oh, they're so. You're right, Reap. They're so edgy. These edgy boys, believe it or not, are lawful good, lawful neutral, and sometimes lawful evil. Um,
They're like I said, they're not necessarily evil. What their organization more concentrate towards more is law. They want to
yeah,
follow law to the letter.
it's this weird thing because their entire idea is that they are the consummate enforcers of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Every law, everywhere.
Yeah, it's results. They prefer results over platitude. In fact, I believe the head of the Hell Knights organization is actually lawful neutral.
Yep. You're going to get a lot of lawful neutrals, which makes sense
Mm-hmm.
because their entire bit is you broke the law. So now we're going to raise your family and your house to the ground
Mm-hmm.
because for you to live, breaking these laws is worse than us letting you go. Um, and yeah, that's also some tyranny stuff there. And that's why they also accept lawful evil. Now, we have to jump to organizations, but I will say one small thing. So this is an awesome growth compendium to the World Book. If you want to get more information about the Lost Omens setting, I recommend the World Book. It's massive. Actually, it's not that massive. It's 135 pages. And on page 109, you get the initial Hell Knight Armiger. So let's say you're a paladin, Armiger of the Hell Knights. Now you go to this book and you get to see how you get to level up your Armiger into the 7 different oaths.
Yep.
So now
For
you get,
yeah, for those in
yeah,
chat, that's the symbol of the Hell Knights.
yeah. So this what this opens up, and we can get more into detail of what these amazing different oaths are
Mm-hmm.
later, because again we're at the halfway point. We have to change, but there's so many cool things you can do with Hell Knights. There's so many amazing player builds because, like, again, you could be a lawful good paladin who maybe does what these characters do a different way. There's a lot of fun role play that you can do. That's a good example of a Hell Knight.
Mm-hmm.
They like spiky armor. This is
Oh yeah, so edgy, so edge.
I'll give you a quick picture. This is the Order of the Pyre. the Oath of the Pyre, if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
This is just basically a mage knight that they have in their group, and they like spiky armor and evil-looking fire.
You know what?
Um,
You know what, PJ? I bet you these guys shop at Hot Topic.
no. They used to shop at Hot Topic, and then they're in the food court smoking clove cigarettes, complaining about how Hot Topic sold out.
Mm. True, true.
They're that, and the thing is, they're not wrong, but that's a conversation for a different time. Yeah. So if you want to talk in the chat about how to build characters, how to do all that kind of stuff, please pop in some questions or ideas, because there's a lot of really fun builds you can do with this. You can make a barbarian, a steel blood barbarian, which is a barbarian that knows how to wear heavy armor, and now you have a barbarian rage machine that can turn into these amazing books. Hold on, Reap Psych said, "Jesus, PJ, why you have to come from my teenage self like that?" Because I was there, man. Because I was there.
I also want to say that these Hell Knights, they if you like a lot of if you like organizations within organizations, the Hell Knights also have a lot of different orders.
Yeah, there's like 5 or 7 of
Yeah.
them. Each one has a different, not only a different view on how they promote the laws, but they have their own special powers and feats you can take. So later, if you want to, we can absolutely
Yeah,
the
they're
chat
yeah,
and us will go into building these guys because they're really
they're
fun.
pretty much what is it they have a very strict military hierarchy.
Very strict. Whereas the Firebrand had a loose hierarchy based on seniority. These guys are oorah to the nth.
Results.
They are
Thank you
very
so
military.
much for joining us at the table. My name is PJ. You can find me everywhere at pj.mcgaw. And my man,
I'm Michael Powell, and you can find me all over the internet, such as my social media, which is at Mr. Kapow. That's MRKAPAO. Or my pretty much my hub is facebook.com/Michael Powell Does Stuff.
That's right. And if you liked our show and some things we talked about, we will see you at Edge of Legend Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Twitch. Our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Nat20 Productions Official. We'll see you there for Edge of Legend, where we become legends right along with you. Thank you so much.